applications in brown hydrogen. Refineries all are using hydrogen as a source of energy, but if they itself consume a lot of fossil fuels, therefore we have to move towards green hydrogen. And the biggest challenge that I have been finding is that the problem is about storage and transportation. Though electrolysis separation is one issue, but in addition to that, huge investment is required in India in the whole supply chain, where this infrastructure will come, how the storage will come, how transportation of this. So this whole supply chain infrastructure, where huge investment is required. Once this supply chain is in place, then only further commercial use of this energy source can take place. We have seen recently Nitin Gadkari ji, I have been working with the government also. Gadkari ji has announced a automobile which is running on the hydrogen. There are ample use about automobile, fertilizers, refineries, steel industries, gas based industries. All there are sufficiently requirement areas which show that hydrogen will be the future. But the problem where we have been finding all our corporate sector is the cost. At present, it is a prohibitive cost in comparison to fossil fuels. So we have to find out certain issues where this cost can be brought down, one through technological innovation. Second is how the emission cost of carbon or environmental cost can be internalized into the balance sheet, so that corporate sector finds it profitable to invest into this and use. Because if you look into the environmental issues, this is one of the important issues. Even in the solar energy sector also we find that there is a problem of storage. And how do you dispose of the batteries after its valuable life is coming up? That also is causing at some places. I was on one of the hydro power generating company, Northeast Electric Power Company, 4 years as an independent director. We had many of the hydro power projects in Northeast areas, around 11 hydro power projects. There also we were moving around and talking about solar energy, but there was a big discussion. But at present we are considering solar power as an environmental friendly. But the problem is about the storage and how you dispose of the batteries, and that is one important environmental issue that is also coming. So considering these things, we think there is a lot of investment is required, cost has to be reduced, and the total estimated expenditure, capex expenditure, that this by 2030 is about $160 billion in India. And though government, our Prime Minister has committed in the Paris Climate Summit and other that we will achieve net zero emission by 2030. If you decarbonizing our industry, all these initiatives have to be incorporated into the corporate balance sheet structure so that the cost is internalized. So these are the important points that I wanted to underline. And in taking into this consideration, government has taken several initiatives. Prime Minister in 2021 had announced the National Hydrogen Mission. In February 2022, the National Hydrogen Policy was announced. Many of the private sector with whom we are working, they have announced huge investment into the capacity into the generating hydrogen, whether it is L&T, Reliance Industries, Adani, and even Renew Power. These are the corporate sector. PSUs also, like BPCL, Indian Oil, HPCL, they have all announced that they will take up capex expenditure into the hydrogen, green hydrogen initiative. And I think this together, all these investment will bring out lot of funding. And in the new government, on the government part of financing and supporting this sector, government in its green hydrogen policy has announced certain initiatives which are investor friendly, which are industry friendly, which will attract investment into this sector. All these initiatives will ultimately bring private as well as government expenditure, investment into this sector, and it will help research, development, commercial use of the whole technology, further other issues in this sector. So the government has announced that we will launch mega tender policy, aggregate the tender requirement of the hydrogen energy so that we can create demand into the sector. Second, the government has also announced that we will set up manufacturing zones, particularly for hydrogen energy, where they will incentivize, provide land at a reasonable cost. Even transportation subsidy has been announced by the government, and the policy of surplus energy generation, which will be put up with the electricity distribution company. They can borrow at any later stage if they generate higher electricity. These are important initiatives which the government is planning to attract investment into this sector through this green hydrogen policy. If you come into the particular important issue of how funding will be done of this, I think one of the important measure which the government thinks can be done is the way we have done with the ethanol, because 80% of our energy requirement we are importing, and biggest problem in India currently on the fiscal side about inflation or fiscal deficit is because our energy requirement we are importing at a very large extent, and even at the geopolitical situation like Ukraine and Russia, it is making lot of difficulty. I am on the BPCL. We know the last year how difficult it was to run the company because of continuous loss on a monthly basis because of high cost of crude oil, etc. So, and we have to become energy efficient domestically. So the Prime Minister took an important initiative of blending of ethanol into the petroleum products, and it was initially thought that 10% blending will be done. Now the target has been increased to 20%. I think one of the important issues is blending, putting up a restriction on the PSUs and other oil refineries, etc., to use energy from this hydrogen, green hydrogen, putting up more and more restrictions on the amount of energy mix that they use. This is one area which the government is working. Then the second best alternative is to attract investment, where the lot of working and public opinion has to be brought, even the corporate sector's opinion has to be brought into this, is purchase power agreement. Having an advance agreement to purchase hydrogen at a cost, so that there is attract investment from the banking and the debt sector also. At present, banking sector is not conducive to putting up financing of these projects because they think the cost is high and commercial viability is another issue, and who will buy these issues. So bank finance is not being attracted. So if the government, like it did in the even hydropower, which had a long gestation period, purchase power agreement were done with the power distribution companies, and that helped into setting up large hydropower projects in the country. So that is another area which work is going on. Tax incentive is definitely an aspect, subsidizing, but instead of subsidizing directly into the project financing, except then research development, definitely government has to come out with more funding. This budget they had announced a 25 crore funding, research and development project funding in this area, but it is not sufficient. It is better that we build at the government level the infrastructure for transportation and storage. There, whatever investment is taking place from the government side, that is better to support these industries. And 2-3 points also I would like, that slowly the concept of emission cost, internalizing the environmental cost into the balance sheet, because I am a chartered accountant also, Institute of Chartered Accountant is also working. How do you internalize the environmental cost into the balance sheet? There, if the cost of environmental sustainability is incorporated into balance sheets, automatically the project will become viable. Many of the projects at present, which are clearly said that they are not viable, once the environmental cost is incorporated into that project or their corporate balance sheet, automatically their viability will increase. Second, so we have to find out more and more ways to how to put up cost of environmental decarbonization or carbonization into the balance sheet. And the second important point that I would like to underline here is for your references, slowly and slowly global trade policies, mercantile policies or bilateral trade or multilateral trade policies, there is a concept of ESGs coming into the whole corporate sector, environmental sustainability growth. And those companies which are ESG compliant, they are getting better valuation at the capital markets also and at the global level also. And when we talk about our Piyush Goyal this Consumer Affairs Minister, when he has been talking about bilateral treaties, etc., there is clear-cut move towards putting up a trade barriers in the form of ESG compliance. So this is an important aspect. Many of the companies which are working at the global levels, if they are not ESG compliant, they will face trade barriers. So this is one area, important area, which will make this balance sheet attractive for investment by the private sector also. And this is one of the important factor which is attracting private investment. Many of the private big business house, industrial houses have committed their large funds into this area because they think that in future trade barriers under the ESG compliance will come, and that if they have to, their carbon footprints are not clearly defined or not clearly restricted, they will find problems. And the third point that I would like in this here to mention here is about the issue of enterprise value. Slowly we see large corporate houses are coming into various investment and setting up different projects where they are not working on the revenue models. Capital market valuation, enterprise value is an important area which is developing globally. Companies though have a revenue loss initially, but if their enterprise value is higher, they get venture capital funds, private funds, green bonds, etc. These are the instruments through which they can attract investment. But the mindset in the corporate sector is moving from revenue model to enterprise valuation model. And that's an important area where a lot of financial experts are working. So this is the area, but ultimately at present what we think that funding of this will come through equity finance only. Banking sector and other debt sector will not come forward, but the government will have to come out with certain green bonds with incentivizing investment, some certain other benefits can be given. Even global ESG funds have been set up under the Paris Convention, where developed countries have to commit certain amount for development of renewable energy. These ESG funds are also coming, they can be accessed. So these are the things that I thought I would underline in the funding of this area. This is a very exciting area. Corporate sector is extremely bullish, but they are not only waiting for technology cost to come out, because they know that the cost of green hydrogen is high. It has to come down through technological innovation, but transportation infrastructure, etc., will also reduce the cost, and this environmental sustainability cost itself will make it more viable. So I think in future green hydrogen is a very important and exciting area, and those scientists, technologians, academicians who can convert it in, connect it from the research to the commercial use have an exciting field to work for it. And I thank the organizer, Intronix and IIT Delhi, for organizing this important discussions and are inviting me to participate. Thank you very much. Heavily, even people are public domain mein hai ye, because the cost of global crude oil, if it is above $80 per barrel, we are losing money on a day-to-day basis. Every liter of diesel that we supply, 36 rupees is the loss that BPCL is bearing. Same is other PSU, and 10 rupees is the loss on petrol. What if the because it is at 90 rupees a dollar a barrel. So yeah, but the thing is, the problem is that we have to change, because
no, I just that is what I said. That means the government has padded you to that extent. Government has padded you to that extent at its own cost. Please understand that.
So PSUs, oil PSUs are not in a good shape for last 1.5 years because of global crude oil crisis. Otherwise, they were, but ultimately we have a mixed tenure where pricing, this consumer price for petrol and diesel is controlled. Even gas price, gas is also being subsidized by the PSU.
Absolutely. Sir, I have a question for you, sir, if you permit me. I'll just give me a minute.
बहुत क्लियर है कि गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसी फरवरी 22 में नेशनल हाइड्रोजन पॉलिसी लेके आई है, which is trying to incentivize the various activities except direct funding. Direct funding में एक प्रॉब्लम है, आपको वो बता दें. How will you? There is no technology at present. जो मुझे समझ आ रहा है, if Norway or one or two countries have technology, but that technology is not cost effective. एक तो वो technology transfer नहीं कर रहे. They want a different kind of arrangement. I have participated in some of the discussion and seminar. They are not transferring technology. They are trying to get a joint venture only, where it is not conducive to our interest. So the government direct incentivizing is at present not applicable. जो vision में government के एकदम नहीं आ रहा. How do you do it? The thing is research development or making the other way, like I was saying कि पीयूष गोयल जी ने के साथ जैसे इंटरनेशनल ट्रेड ट्रीटीज में ESG कंप्लायंस का जो बैलेंस शीट का एंटरप्राइज वैल्यू का जो इशू है, उसी के थ्रू इसको कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर और PSU सबको भी इसको अट्रैक्टिव बनाना पड़ेगा. अदरवाइज अगर सरकार डायरेक्टली कार्बन एमिशन पे टैक्सेशन करे, एमिशन और कार्बन पे टैक्सेशन मतलब वो पेनल्टी लगाए या सैंक्शन करे कुछ चीजें, तो वो चीजें एकदम इस तरह से एकदम तो कर नहीं सकते कि कार्बन एमिशन पे, क्योंकि MSME और बहुत सारे सेक्टर है. अभी भी वो फर्नेस ऑयल का जो कोल जो बचता है रिफाइनरी में से, जो कि हाईली पॉल्यूटेंट है, उसके लिए एजिटेशन कर रहे हैं बहुत से लोग. ये तो ये एक्चुअली अनलेस वी हैव सम गुड टेक्नोलॉजी विच इज कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव एंड रिड्यूसेस द कॉस्ट. एक तो तरीका वो है. दूसरा है कि कॉस्ट ऑफ कार्बन एमिशन को हम धीरे धीरे पेनल्टी वाइज या वो उस तरह डिसइंसेंटिवाइज करते हुए उसकी कॉस्ट को एमिशन कार्बन एमिशन की कॉस्ट को हम धीरे धीरे बढ़ाते, तो दोनों के बैलेंस करके करना पड़ेगा. मुझे तो लगता है यही एक तरीका इस वक्त है. बट लॉट ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट शुड कम थ्रू ऑन टेक्नोलॉजी इनोवेशन अनलेस वी फाइंड अ गुड टेक्नोलॉजी ऑफ कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव वे. क्योंकि ब्राउन हाइड्रोजन अदर देन ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन तो बहुत सालों से रिफाइनरीज हाइड्रोजन दे आर यूजिंग एज अ फ्यूल. तो ये बात है. तो अल्टीमेट वी हैव टू वर्क. और यहाँ पे तो जो साइंटिस्ट है वो ज्यादा है कि टेक्नोलॉजी पे अभी बहुत काम करने की आवश्यकता है. फंडिंग रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट में जरूरत है, बट नॉट डायरेक्टली इनटू द कमर्शियल यूज ऑफ दिस. सीधा फंडिंग की बात अभी गवर्नमेंट के लेवल पे ऐसी कुछ नहीं है कि सब्सिडी क्रिएट कर दे, उससे एकदम कॉस्ट रिडक्शन होगा नहीं, इतना यूज उतना होगा नहीं, क्योंकि कॉस्ट गैप बहुत है. अगर यहाँ पे एवरेज कॉस्ट 6 से 7 रुपया है और सोलर पावर की 1-1.5 रुपया है और दूसरा हाइड्रो पावर की लगभग भी 3-4 रुपए है. When we were in the Bank of Baroda, we invested gave lot of fund to the Bombay IIT to do research on the fintech. तो इस तरह मतलब I agree that we need more funds on the research side. Like we have invested, PSUs have invested, PSBs have invested into the fintech, and we have seen good valuation and development on the fintech side. Similar technological innovation, etc. Government should look into this.